Hello mates. There is an age-old saying, if a person only feeds the person sitting in front of him, the whole world will be well fed. The virtue of caring for others is what everyone lacks today. When we are filled with greed, fear, or we lack consideration for others, we are selfish. Imagine a world where everyone only cares for himself, the people filled with self-desires and do not want to share what they have. Do you think the planet would be worth living? Today, we have a story, The Selfish Giant, from your textbook. It so happened, you might have heard or read this story before, but today do not take it as a story only. Listen to the story, see the events that I scribbled for you as comic strips, and try to introspect yourself. There were some school children who used to play in the giant's garden every afternoon. They did so while coming from school. It was a large, lovely garden. It had soft grass. There were fruit trees in it. They bore rich fruit. The birds sang sweetly. The children were happy to play in it. The children were so happy playing there, that they even forgot that it was the giant's garden. They enjoyed the beauty of the garden, the sweet music of the birds, and being with each other. One day, the giant came back after 7 years. He had stayed with his friend the Cornish ogre. He saw the children playing in his garden. The children ran away as they saw him. He said that it was his own garden. He would not allow anyone to play there. He built a wall around it. He also put a notice board. It had a warning on it: trespassers will be prosecuted. The children had no other place to play. They used to wander round the high walls. They used to talk about the beautiful garden inside. The spring came. There were blossoms and little birds. The world was full of beauty, color and happiness. But it was winter in the giant's garden. The birds didn't sing as there were no children. Once a beautiful flower came out of the grass. But it saw the notice board. It went back to sleep. In the giant's garden there were the snow and the frost. Everything in it looked white. Then came the north wind. It stayed with them. The hail also came. The selfish giant looked at the cold and white garden. The spring didn't come to his garden. There were golden fruit in the autumn. But it didn't come to his garden. The winter, the north wind, the hail, the frost, the snow danced there. One morning the giant heard some lovely music. It was very sweet. He thought that it must be the king's musicians. But it was a lean-neck. She was singing outside his window. The giant found its song very sweet. Then the hail stopped dancing. The north wind stopped. The giant felt that the spring had come. The giant saw the most lovely sight. The children had entered his garden through a little hole. They were sitting in the branches of the trees. The trees were very glad to have them. They had blossomed. The birds were flying about. They were chirping also. The flowers were also looking up. It was a lovely sight. But in one corner, there was still winter. In that corner, a small boy was standing. He could not reach the branches of the trees. He was crying and wandering about. The north wind blew and roared. The tree asked the boy to climb. It bent its branches down. But the boy couldn't climb. The giant's heart melted at this scene. He said that he was really selfish. He also said that he now understood why the spring didn't come. He would put that little boy on the top of the tree. He would also pull down the wall. His garden shall be the children's playground forever. He was sorry for what he had done. When the children saw the giant, they ran away. The garden became winter again. Only the little boy didn't run. He was weeping. He didn't see the giant coming. The giant put the boy up into the tree. The tree blossomed at once. The little boy kissed the giant. The other children saw that the giant was not wicked. They came running back. With them came the spring. The giant told the children that it was their garden. He pulled down the wall. People saw the giant playing with the children during noon. Every afternoon the children came and played with the giant. But the giant wanted to see the little boy. The little boy did not come. Years went over. The giant grew very weak. He watched the children playing. He used to say that children were the most beautiful flowers. One winter morning, the giant suddenly rubbed his eyes. He saw a very beautiful scene. In one corner there stood a lovely tree with white blossoms. Its branches were golden. The little boy stood under it. The children found the giant dead under a tree. He was covered with white blossoms. Friends, I know you must have read this story somewhere. At that time it was only a story for you. Today, I want you to broaden your perspective. Other than what has been told in the story, and the moral of the story, I want you to relate this classic story to the present times. Look around yourself. There is hatred that we share with each other. This is because we think that something belongs to us and only us. We have rights over it. This perspective gives birth to clashes, as the same is claimed by others too. Let us take an example. We have been getting the news of communal rights in the country. History is filled up with stories like this. Try to get deeper in the facts told. The only reason you will find that created the whole mess is selfishness. Selfishness leads to greed, which leads to fear, and at last to clashes. Think, something which does not belong to you, you don't have fear of losing it. That is what we must learn. That is our culture, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, or universal brotherhood.